Welcome back, everyone, to my channel. My name is Shweta. I'm the founder of Healthy Dynamics, and we are a coaching practice that helps English as a second language healthcare providers improve both their language and communication skills for them to build better relationships with their patients and stand out in their workplace as a person of excellence. Now, today we have a guest as part of my monthly interview series, and I've been very excited to have this particular guest on. We are actually in the same entrepreneur group for child-free individuals. So we both are child-free by choice women, and we just happen to be in the same group. And I discovered her work, and it very much aligns with the expertise of a healthcare professional. So let me introduce you to Susan Murray. She's been working as a therapeutic coach since 2016, who specializes in helping women to recover from conditions such as ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, and anxiety. Susan has combined her training skills and experience to develop her own mind-body aligned method, which she uses with the one-to-one clients as well as the membership group that she's created in 2022, which is called the Mind-Body Aligned Members Circle. She has recently taken on the role of a health and wellness author for women's online publication called Elysium and produced CPD materials for holistic therapists, all at the request of the College of Bowen Studies. She continues to create materials and courses to provide varying levels of access to her work for a wide range of clients. Susan, it's really lovely to have you on. Thank you very much for devoting your time to share your expertise and your knowledge with us.
Thank you for having me. It's really, I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you and your audience. So thank you for having me.
Great. So I've obviously introduced you to everyone. So can you just give me a little bit of an insight into what got you started on your journey into not just any regular therapist, but a therapist with a bit of a unique touch? So can you just enlighten us on how you got on with that?
Yeah, sure. It took quite a while. My original background was in music. That's what my degree is in. And when I qualified with that, I actually spent the following decade being a music teacher. So I was teaching drums and percussion around schools and after school clubs and things like that. It was never really what I wanted to do, though. It was just the only thing that I could kind of find to do that was acceptable using my qualifications. So things changed for me big time when my mum passed away in 2008. And around that time and watching her and being there with her at the end of her life really kind of made me realize, really highlighted to me that I wasn't happy in my own life. I knew I wasn't happy, but it really highlighted why I wasn't happy, the reasons, and also that, I just realized that I actually could do something about it. It was within my control to change my life and to live a life that I was fulfilled with and happy with. So I started making big changes at that point. Left my partner, moved back closer to family and friends and things like that. After a few years, I met met a new partner who is now my wife of 6 years. And in amongst that, I realized that I had a passion and also a talent for helping people. So I started kind of down the road of counselling training. So I did some counselling courses, even started my master's in it. A year into that, I realised that that wasn't quite for me. So I left with my postgraduate certificate in counselling. And during that time, I'd also qualified in a different type of therapy, which is called mycotherapy. And the reason that fascinated me so much was that it was a specialist therapy for helping people to recover from the conditions that you've mentioned. So ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and also anxiety and depression. The reason that really grabbed my attention is that these were all conditions that my mum had. I never managed to recover from. Although she did actually discover this therapy and had a couple of sessions with it, and it was the first thing that actually seemed to start helping her, but she wasn't able to continue with it, and her health continued. to decline until she passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So when I kind of came across this, when I was, retraining and all of that sort of thing, a few years after she passed,
Mm-hmm.
I just had to jump at it because I thought if I can help people like her,
Mm-hmm.
there is this way for people to recover, and if I can help people to do that, uh, then that's just amazing because watching what she went through and caring for her, people just shouldn't have to go through that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because in many ways, my mom's journey, I mean, she's still alive and she's doing very well, inspired me to do what I'm doing. And in some ways, your mom's challenges inspired you to do what you're
Yeah,
doing. And I do know that when a parent passes away, touch wood, I haven't experienced that yet. It can be very, very life altering.
yeah,
You really sort of question yourself and reflect on a lot of things that you've been doing. And that's when people really change the course of their life. I've often sort of witnessed that. So
yeah,
yeah, thank you for that.
absolutely.
Now, in your programs, how do you incorporate self-awareness when it comes to identifying their symptoms, challenges, and the root of it? The reason why I'm asking is because my coaching program, the very first thing that I speak to my clients about is self-awareness. So they have to get a sense of what their values are, what their beliefs are, and what actually motivates them to do well in their roles as healthcare providers and also achieve in that field. So unless you have a good grasp of that, it's the very crucial foundation that you need in order to sort of progress in a more holistic manner. So yeah, so in your case, how do you incorporate or yeah, sort of merge this particular tool?
Well, my approach is based on the basis that symptoms of these conditions are caused by a buildup of negative emotions. And this is due to not having the knowledge and ability to deal more effectively with these kinds of emotional issues, which are mainly around unfair treatment and not meeting their own needs.
Mm-hmm.
And these issues continue to play out in their daily life because they haven't learned how to deal with them. So they kind of keep playing out, as do the more unhelpful patterns around, say, dealing with them, but not dealing with them, maybe avoiding them or not knowing what to do with them at all.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my process, especially initially, is to have clients keep a kind of daily journal, which answers specific questions around what symptoms they're having,
Mm-hmm.
um, or if there's a fluctuations in symptoms more than usual, that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and what else was happening around that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my job to kind of go through these answers and kind of help to pull out what the emotional issues are that are associated with the symptoms, and
Mm-hmm.
then to guide them, basically coach them in being able to deal with these kinds of situations better. So it's a way. The process is actually about almost training them to do this for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to associate the emotional issues with the symptoms so that when they get symptoms, they can take appropriate action to deal with the emotional issues and see their symptoms reduce. The more that they get used to doing this, the more they can do it, the more they're able to do it and get to a point where they have good boundaries in place, they're not allowing any unfair treatment, they're meeting their needs with enough balance and variety. And because they're dealing with this stuff on a daily basis, in the present tense, the
Mm-hmm.
emotions aren't building up, the negative emotions aren't building up, they're flowing through, and therefore there's no need for the symptoms to be produced.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah, as someone who has experienced anxiety, yeah, it is literally a snowball of negative emotions,
yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And that manifests as, chronic pain and, loss of appetite. And it's just one thing, it's a vicious circle, one thing that leads to another. So that's very
absolutely,
interesting. Yeah.
absolutely.
Now, you mentioned a little bit about boundaries, and I know that your live stream that you did on our Facebook group mentioned boundaries. So, how do you sort of uphold your personal boundaries as a healthcare provider, and also coach your clients on how to identify and maintain their personal boundaries in all areas of life?
Well, boundaries are just so important, and they come into everything, not just around disallowing unfair treatment, but ensuring that you are able to meet your own needs as well. Um, and it has been a process for me as well, and I think it's an ever evolving process with people and new situations that you come across. But one of the main things that I've worked on in my own personal development over the past maybe 15, 16 years is developing good and healthy boundaries in my personal relationships. So making it clear that um, just who I am and what I'm not willing to put up with, not what I'm not willing to kind of entertain or engage
Mm-hmm.
um, with people, but also it is highly important to bring that into my practice and have good boundaries with my clients. Firstly, to protect myself, but also to to live by example. So clients aren't going to buy into having good boundaries if they can cross mine very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
um, yeah, I bring them into play. So I have things like, one of my one of my things is that I do have contact with clients between sessions. So I encourage them to email me or send me messages if they're stuck with something so that
Okay.
usually I can very quickly move them on with a reply, like, a sentence or a wee paragraph. But they do know that they're not going to get that immediately. That I will reply to them as and when I can. I don't generally reply to anything over the weekend. Um, I have a client coach agreement that sets out very clearly what's expected of me as their coach and what's expected of them throughout the whole process. Um, so yeah, I think it's really important just to have that clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they know what to expect from me. They know what's expected of them. Um, and in terms of them and their personal life, boundaries is probably the most important part. Well, boundaries and needs are equal, but they're so entwined very often.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
but so many people that come to me, for them, unfair treatment is a massive issue, and it very often goes back to childhood and being unfairly treated in childhood. So it's a massive, massive part of what we work on, and a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
is around them starting to believe that they deserve better. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because if you don't think that you deserve any better, where is the motivation to set boundaries and to disallow unfair treatment?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I have my own kind of framework, and I talked about it on the live stream, and actually I'm developing it a little bit at the moment to put more into it. So I talked about my four pillars of boundary setting in there, and I've added a fifth one as well. So I'm working on that at the moment. Um, Anything that I can do to make it feel easier for people to start doing this. And it is about
Mm-hmm.
starting with the kind of the small things
Mm-hmm.
and getting confidence in saying no or in saying yes to yourself, and um, building on this bit by bit. Um, some people will just take everything on board and completely change things within a week, and the change from
Mm-hmm.
one session to the next is incredible.
Yes.
And then other people just need a lot more support, encouragement, and it takes a lot longer for them to start setting these because they have to feel that it's safe to set them.
Yes,
You know.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, that was very well detailed, and I'm really excited about having a look at that framework, and maybe I might share it because my followers would really benefit from that as well. 100%. Now, what is different about your approach and style when communicating with your clients as opposed to how healthcare providers, physicians typically communicate with their patients? So, in a sense, that how do you empower them, hold them accountable, and be empathetic towards them?
Well, the the empathy comes naturally because I get them. I get what they're going through, having lived with it and seen it with my mum, and also understanding these conditions in a way that the majority of healthcare providers don't, because modern medicine doesn't fully understand these conditions. Majority of people, majority of doctors, specialists, whether whether dealing with these things or not, they're not trained to look at the emotional side or to provide um, the support in
Mm-hmm.
that respect. So
Yes.
there's a serious lack of understanding of the root cause of these conditions and the link between emotional health and the
Mm-hmm.
physical manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a lack of understanding and empathy there in general. Obviously,
Yes.
there are many exceptions and many people who do look outside of their training, but
Mm-hmm.
I have that understanding. So I understand the conditions, I understand the effect of it, I understand how it plays out, how
Mm-hmm.
it affects every aspect of their lives,
Mm-hmm.
um, and how debilitating they are and can be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think I think people very quickly understand that that's a genuine understanding and empathy that I have. Um, and well, the way I empower them is this whole process that I take them through is about helping them to take back control
Mm-hmm.
and autonomy of their own health. So rather than feeling at the mercy of doctors or of
Mm-hmm.
medication and things like that, it's about them taking that control back and knowing that they can do something. It is about the action that they take and how they deal with things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the the whole coaching process and what I explained earlier about the journals and being able to take action and learning all of that helps put them back in control. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and all of this, it can involve challenging them
Mm-hmm.
um, in a way that encourages them to be honest with themselves first
Yes.
and then with me. Um, and there is the constant reminder that if they don't take the appropriate action in order to
Mm-hmm.
deal with the emotional issues, then they're not going to see the reduction in symptoms that they want to
Yes.
see. Um, and I think that alone keeps them accountable because I can give them all of the support and
Mm-hmm.
guidance in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally do. I do as
Mm-hmm.
much
Mm-hmm.
as I can, but I can't take the action for them. And it's
Of
always just
course.
going to
Yeah.
come down to that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the accountability is natural there. Um, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is good. I think what you're doing is, I think you blend empathy but also some tough love. I don't know, that's a way to sort of put it. But yeah, that's a good way to, I think, hold them accountable. And sometimes you need to tell them what they need to hear instead of what they want to hear. So
absolutely.
and I think both you and I are very good at that. So that's our superpower. 100%. Now, you mentioned a little bit about modern medicine and the overall lack of understanding that the physicians who have been trained in that system they have. Now, in what ways do you, in from your experience, does modern medicine lets patients down in treating and curing these conditions?
Well, it all comes from that basic lack of understanding. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's not. I don't believe it's the fault of healthcare providers. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
the training, and I think it's the rhetoric that there is no known cause for these conditions. There's
Mm-hmm.
ongoing kind of clinical research, but the majority of that is being done by big pharma, who is looking
Yes.
for some kind of physical thing that they can then produce a pill for and
Yes.
sell it. And so they can fund all of the research they want to, but if they're not looking in the right place, and I think they're deliberately not looking in the right place, they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to find the answer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so this naturally filters down to, in the UK it's GPs, local doctors, primary healthcare providers,
Mm-hmm.
and then even specialists. Say that
Mm-hmm.
term loosely. I mean, there are people called specialists that don't have this understanding. So
Mm-hmm.
um, if you don't have the understanding, then what can you do about it?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the the thing that gets to me is that in the same breath, many doctors will say, or it's the kind of the mainstream medicine line is, um, we don't know what causes these conditions, and there is no way to recover from them, and
Yes.
that just does not make sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
How can
Yes.
you say that there's no way to recover if you don't know what the cause is?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah, so um, that's there's nothing really for them to do now. Many, like I say, there are many doctors who do more research, who do listen a lot more, who have patients coming back to them who have miraculously recovered from these conditions, and they've found out that what they've done, and they will um, maybe mention to other patients. There are things. There is this thing that you might want to look into because apparently this has been helpful for other people, and that's as far as they can go in terms of
Mm-hmm.
recommendation, especially in the UK here.
Mm-hmm.
So alongside that lack of understanding and not having the the tools or
Mm-hmm.
anything to actually provide the help that's going to work for these patients,
Mm-hmm.
um, there's been a history of, and it's improving now, but especially within the UK, a history of doctors in mainstream medicine treating patients with these conditions very badly. So
Okay.
because of the lack of understanding, especially if we go back maybe 15, 20 years, um, not believing them, not
Mm-hmm.
taking it seriously,
Yes.
saying it's all psychosomatic in the sense that it's all in their head, um, and that it's not maybe a real physical condition.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have like the two extremes that my clients generally talk to me about is they either get sent for the complete battery of intrusive testing in order to come
Yes.
to a diagnosis of exclusion,
Mm-hmm.
or you get very apathetic doctors that they have to really be begged to do any sort of testing to find some sort of answer so that people know exactly what they're dealing with or what they're not dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So they're like I say, it's an improving situation, but this is still very much happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the improvements have led to trials of certain things to help. So there were nice the nice recommendations for a while were things like, sending people for CBT, talking about things like graded exercise and pacing, which is still talked about far too much. But because of the lack of understanding of the root cause, these things just they either don't go far enough or they can actually make things worse. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, it comes down to them not having the knowledge and tools to help people to recover
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
these conditions.
Yeah. And that's kind of why it inspired me to do the work that I'm doing now, because you know, the education and training, yes, equips you for the theory behind it. But again, when you work with clients and patients who are very vulnerable, that's a completely different set of skills that people need to master and practice and get right. And it does take time, it does take practice. And you know, yeah, things like you mentioned, that getting to the root cause of what it is, asking deep questions rather than just asking a question just to tick a box, and also taking patients seriously, not letting them have autonomy and agency, and advocating for them. So these are the things that I always sort of mention, in a lot of detail, and sort of coach people on.
Still a
And
Sorry, I was just
sorry.
going to say it's still a huge issue, not just with these conditions, but with
Mm-hmm.
anything that you go to. Again, I'm using my own experience and that of
Of
people that I
course, yeah.
know and
Mm-hmm.
clients. So very much in the UK here, when you go to the doctor about anything,
Mm-hmm.
cause is not mentioned. And if you actually ask, what causes this? Oh, well, it's that doesn't matter. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
as if their training is very much diagnosis and then what medicine do we
Yeah.
prescribe for
The
this?
numbing the symptom. I think
Yeah,
rather
so
than
it's
treating the
masking
symptom,
it.
I think
Yeah,
yeah, masking and numbing it is what
yeah,
it. That's what they do. Whereas I
exactly.
think it's now much more groundbreaking that there's many more studies that are coming into the forefront
Yeah,
on. That's only like one very very small part of the puzzle. There's a lot
yeah,
more work to.
absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. And now, just to sort of wrap things up, a lot of people are still very reluctant to try therapeutic methods that are not signed off by a patient, but by a physician or without medication. Now, the real reason why one of the foundations of my coaching is that I want my clients to be trusted by their patients. And so that, how do you sort of do that? How do you earn your clients' trust and make them less skeptical and have faith in your approach?
Well, first of all, there are just some people who will never get there. There are some people who just completely trust their doctors without question. So they trust modern medicine without question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what most of us are brought up to do, or have been if we get to this point in life. Hopefully, things are changing there.
Mm-hmm.
So they will just not entertain any other kind of treatment or therapy. And I think it's important to know when you just can't do anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my approach naturally appeals to those who perhaps have developed a certain amount of mistrust of the, their healthcare system, and
Mm-hmm.
how it works and everything that we've just talked about. Um, the lack of understanding, empathy, and ability to help. Um, so most people who come to me are probably more open-minded, so they're more open to holistic and alternative treatments. And by the time they
Mm-hmm.
get to me, they've normally been through all of them. They've normally
Mm.
tried everything that they can find to do to help, and it hasn't gone far enough. It might
Yes.
again relieve some symptoms every so often. It might help them to certain extents and to certain extents in certain ways, um, but nothing will actually have helped them to recover again because it's not dealing with the emotional issue and learning how to deal with that on an ongoing basis. So
Yes.
because most people who approach me in the first place have at least a certain amount of open-mindedness
Mm-hmm.
around all of this. Usually a quick overview of the theory that my coaching is based on um, resonates with them very quickly and often very deeply. So
Mm-hmm.
they they have a short conversation with me and have a sense that this is the thing that's actually going to help um, because it's that um, because it's the first thing that's ever made sense to them
Mm-hmm.
in
Yes.
terms of cause and how to recover.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just go, that's the first time I've ever really made sense of it, or it has made sense to me. What's caused it? Now I can see the connection. This has happened. I talk about boundaries and unfair treatment, and they sit and they nod their heads, and all of that sort of thing. So, um, they generally they come away from an initial conversation with me with hope that they've never been given from anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's not to say that none of them ever have any skepticism at all,
Yes.
because if you've gone years and years with a condition and nobody's been able to help, to have somebody go, this can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It does take quite a lot. So, but I think what helps is my client testimonials, which they can read on my website. There's at least snippets of most of them, or a lot of them, maybe not most of
Mm-hmm.
them, but alongside my complete transparency, and I think the empathy and the understanding that does come across helps them to trust me enough to at least give it a try. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I never ask my clients to have a blind faith in me or to trust everything that I say without question at all. I
Yes.
encourage them to be curious
Mm-hmm.
and explore and use my guidance and what I'm telling them, and to kind of experiment with it.
Yes.
It's like, well, okay, you don't have to believe this at the moment, but you have to have enough faith to at least give it a try. So why don't you just experiment? Give this a try and see what happens.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
and if they do, then the results speak for themselves, and then they build on that confidence in the approach and
Yeah.
the trust in me and
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, like you said, you can give them all the knowledge, tools, and guidance and everything like that, but it's up to them to have an open mind and let go of some of the limiting beliefs and the prejudices and biases that they have. And again, something that my coaching programs do mention, that how to overcome those and just become open-minded. And that again, a lot of unlearning needs to take place at that one.
Yeah.
So you did mention your website, and so just can you just tell everyone where they can find you? You have a website. Where else can people contact you if needed?
Yeah, so I have my Facebook. My main profile is in professional mode, so I generally use that for work. I have a business page on Facebook as well. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure, I think you have all my contact details and you can link people up with all of that.
100%, which is what
Um,
I'll do in the description box. I'll leave all your links.
Great.
And you did mention that you are also going to be starting a YouTube channel. So when that does become available, that is also something that people can check out with time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, so thank you very much, Susan, for sharing your expertise and your knowledge and your experience with us. I think I could have this conversation with you for a very long time. There was so much to unpack and learn here.
Yeah.
For everyone who is watching and listening, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and notification bell to stay updated on such interviews and other content for healthcare communication in the ESL space. And if you do like this video, make sure that you hit it a like. And as always, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence and engagement. And I will see you next week with another video. Cheers.